Okay, 3.3, this is example 1, and it's just practice in completing the square. Okay, now I just want you to look at these questions for a second. If you look at A, you can see that there is 1 in front of the x squared. Okay, and so we've done them like that. When you look at B and C, you see that you do have a number in front of the x squared. And so we're going to have to do something a little special for that one. Okay, so we'll start with A. We'll go through our procedure that we learned about in the lesson. Okay, you have f of x is equal to x squared plus 6x. And I'm just not going to write it out like that. I'm just going to start off by writing it with that big space for myself. Okay? And so what I want to do to complete the square is I want to take that x coefficient, that's b, take the 6, divide it by 2, you get 3, okay? And then you square that. Okay? And so in order to not have changed my equation, I'm going to make sure that I add 0 overall by adding and then subtracting a 9. Okay, and what that does is that allows me to have this binomial squared right there. Okay, that's this part. And then in this part, that becomes negative 4. Okay, and so in that simple process, I take the coefficient of the x, divide it by 2. So divide this by 2, you get 3. And so this becomes 3 squared. Okay. And that 3 is also what you're going to put down here. Okay, so that is in vertex form. Very nice. Now I could already tell you about this equation, that it has its vertex at -3 and -4. And I can also tell you that its y-intercept is 5. So I could actually do a pretty good job of graphing this equation already, just from looking at it in standard form and then looking at it in vertex form. Okay, next one. This is one where we have of a different, just one extra step at the beginning on account of having that 3 in front of the x squared term. Okay, so what I need to do actually before I do anything else is I'm going to take a factor of 3 out of those first two terms. Okay, so this is what I end up with. Okay, I'm going to put a bracket here because I want to complete this square. I'm going to leave a space for undoing whatever I do there, and then I'm going to have my -9. Okay. Now that I've taken that 3 out, it doesn't really change how I complete that binomial square. I'm still going to take this -4, divide it by 2, and get -2. Okay. And then when I take that -2 and square it, I know I need to have a 4 here. That's completing the square. But now I have to ask myself, what have I really done to change this equation here? And I didn't add 4. I added a 4 that's in brackets and multiplied by a 3. Okay, so I have actually added 12. So in order to fix that, I'm going to need to subtract 12. Okay. And then it's just the same as it was. It's just that one thing that you need to remember, that you didn't add 4, you in fact added 3 times 4. Okay, because that 3 would be distributed over that 4. And then just a matter of writing that trinomial as a binomial squared. So my 3 stays on the outside. I have x minus 2 squared and minus 21. Okay, so again, I know a lot about this one already. I know that it has its vertex at 2 and -21. And I know that that it's got a y-intercept of -9. Okay, I know that from C when it's in ax squared plus bx plus c form. Okay, this one's going to be a little narrower, right, because it has a 3 in front of the x squared. Okay, C again, just another one with a value in front of a value other than 1 in front of the x squared. Okay. So it's -5x squared minus 70x. Okay, and this one doesn't have a constant term, which means that it's going to cross the y-axis at 0, so it passes through the origin. Okay. So again, what I have to do is I need to take my -5 out of those first two terms before I do anything else. Okay. All right, so -5 times 14 is -70. I can check back and make sure I took out the right factor. Okay. And what do I need to add here? Well, I'll take this I will divide it by 2 to see what I need to have here. 7. Okay, and then I want to add 7 squared to that, okay? So I'm going to add 49. Okay, and then I have to ask myself, what have I actually done to change this equation? Okay, I've actually added not 49, but negative 5 times 49. So I've added a negative 245. And so in order to fix that, I'm going to add a positive 245. All right, and now all I need to do is change that trinomial to the binomial squared. Okay, so that's x plus 7 squared plus 245. Okay, so I have a parabola here. I know that it opens down because it has a negative a value. I know that it's going to be quite narrow because it has larger than 1. I know that it passes through the origin, and it has a vertex of negative 7 and 245. Okay, and yeah, so a fairly quick process, and something that tells you a lot about the parabola that's modeled by the function.